and welcome back. It is so wonderful to be sitting here with you today. I am officially 3 weeks postpartum as of today, and it's been a little bit of a roller coaster. I have her nursing right now on her little cushion, and she's sitting here with me, eyes open, listening to the story I'm about to tell you. I'm so excited to get my feelings out, to have this documented, not only to share with you, but for myself. I really enjoy, and that's something I'm really grateful for having video content. I really enjoy looking back at my old videos and vlogs and things like that, seeing my first two grow up, and they were so small when I started, and yeah, so I really wanted to do this for me and for you. But yeah, let's start from the beginning. I had my IUD taken out May of 2020. So when I knew I had my annual appointment set up for in May, Logan and I had the conversation that since we weren't going to be able to go on our honeymoon because we were getting married in September of 2020, that maybe we should just start trying to have a baby. Like, why wait? What are we waiting for? Type of thing. We didn't think that it would happen as quickly as it did, to be honest with you, and we are so grateful, but we were shocked when we got that positive pregnancy test. So when people were asking me, like, were you shocked? I was like, yes, but like, not for the reasons that you think. Like, this wasn't an oops baby, and that is something that kind of grinded my gears a little bit throughout this pregnancy. This is my third pregnancy, third baby. My other two are 12 and 10. If you're new here, I'll give you a little caveat there. When people would hear that this was my third baby, they're like, oh, you're old hat at this, you got this, you're gonna be totally fine, you know what you're doing, and all this stuff. And I'm kind of like, well, that was 10 years ago, and yeah, there's gonna be some things I remember, but a lot of it I was really nervous about. Again, it felt like my first baby all over again. So much has changed in the baby industry, both product and medical wise. So I did a lot of research the past 9 months on this whole process. If you have questions about that, or if I need to make a separate video talking a little bit more about the resources that I use to prepare myself for childbirth and infancy, let me know. I could definitely do that. But yeah, so we found out in July that I was pregnant. We had our wedding in September, which was wonderful. Luckily, I didn't have any crazy side effects other than bloating and just feeling extra lethargic throughout my first trimester. Second trimester, I had some back pain, but again, like a little bit of queasiness here and there, but nothing crazy. Third trimester, it definitely hit me a little bit harder than I expected it to, especially once I hit like the 30 to 32 week mark. I definitely started slowing down just naturally. I let my body kind of tell me what it needed and what I needed to do and not do. And by 38 weeks, if you saw, I filmed like a vlog type video kind of being like, where is she? What's happening? Because my other two came early on in week 38, and I had filmed that video at the end of week 38. And I was like, what the heck? Like, where is she at? And that was like a Thursday or Friday. Come that Sunday, I woke up and I had some discharge, some pink discharge. And I was like, well, maybe this is my bloody show. I've never had that before, so this is new. Again, I know this is my third baby, but I had so many firsts with this, like heartburn. I didn't even mention that. In the third trimester, I had such bad heartburn. Like, I had the worst heartburn that I ended up taking Prevacid. Like, Tums weren't even touching it, and I changed my diet. Nothing was working. But anyways, so back to the bloody show I thought I was having. So I kind of like hung out Sunday, took it easy, didn't do too much. I figured it would kind of wane off because when I Googled it, of course you Google it, right? It's Sunday. I couldn't really call my doctor. It said that it usually kind of like wanes off. But I noticed like Sunday late, I guess it was 3 a.m. So technically Monday, I was having a lot more of it happening. Monday morning, it kept going. It didn't slow down, and that's when I called Logan at work, and I was like, hey, like, maybe I should go get checked out. Correction, I called my doctor first, and I was like, should I come in for a visit? I'm supposed to see you on Wednesday, but like, and I know it's Monday. They told me to go to triage at the hospital. That's when I called Logan at work, and I was like, hey, like, do you mind coming home? Because at first I was just gonna go by myself. I was like, oh, I'll go get checked. I'm sure it's nothing. Like, I feel like I'm gonna be pregnant forever. But then something inside of me was like, no, Logan needs to come. Because he knew I was going, but I was kind of being like, oh no, it's no big deal. I'll go and get checked. But something in me told me to tell him to come home. So he came home. It was about 12:30. We left about 1. We like got the rest of the bags in the car. Everything was pretty much packed, but we grabbed like little odds and ends that we needed. Everything was really calm. While I was waiting for him to come home, I showered and washed and blow dried my hair, so I felt all like fresh and clean, because I was so convinced that they were just gonna send me home. But I wanted to feel like fresh just in case, and good thing I did. So we get to the hospital about 1:15, 1:30. They take me to the triage, and that's where they hook you up to like some monitors, ask you a bunch of questions, check on baby, check on you. I was having hardly any contractions at all, like not even ones that I was recognizing, more like period cramp type things that I just blew off. And they said that she was doing great. She had a wonderful heart rate. She was just chilling in there. They did swab me to see if I was leaking amniotic fluid. And while we were waiting for those results, they pretty much said that unless I'm leaking amniotic fluid, I was gonna go home. And it still kind of made me uncomfortable with the amount of pinkness that was in the discharge I was having, but I was trying to trust their judgment and what was going on. So we waited and waited for the results for what felt like forever, and I'm sure it was only like 20 minutes. And the nurse came back saying, we're admitting you, you're leaking amniotic fluid, you're having your baby today. And Logan and I looked at each other, we were like, what? Because by then it's like 2:30, 2:45, right? And from that point, I feel like everything went so fast in my mind, like in my perception of everything. They brought in the registrar immediately after, took our insurance information, moved us into a delivery room. Logan went down to get the bags. I took a little selfie in the meanwhile, I'll show you here. Everything was really calm. It was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like there was a little freak out moment when they said it, like you're having a baby today. And I was like, what? An excitement behind it, but we were just like, oh, okay, this is it. It wasn't some big dramatic moment to that point. They pretty much immediately got me onto my IV, which finally, 3 weeks out, has finally started to heal. I had a big bruise. I don't even know if I have a picture of it because it was gross. This was the first IV that blew, and I warned them. I was like, I have really hard time getting IVs, and then I get super anxious about it since I have a little bit of white coat anxiety. So they ended up putting the IV, obviously I wasn't wearing the watch at the time, but literally right in my wrist, which was wildly inconvenient since I was trying to do as much of this process without an epidural. So anytime I wanted to put my hands down or like brace myself, I couldn't use my left hand. I had to use like my forearm and get a little bit creative, because every time I went to push like this, it would push on the IV and I would feel it and it would be painful. And even then I still had bruising on my arm. But that's the least of the worries at that time. They got the IV in finally. They started me on Pitocin about 3:30 at a level 2. They told me they max out at 20 and that they would be increasing in increments of 2 every half hour. So they came in every half hour to check me, check stats, mostly see how my contractions were doing. The only time I really got checked dilation wise was 3 times the whole time I was in the hospital. Once during triage when I came in and I was only like 2.5 centimeters, and then keep forwarding on Pitocin, hanging out, bouncing on the ball, walking around the room, hanging out with Logan. We tried to watch a TV show, but like couldn't concentrate because we were so excited, and texting friends and family and all that. So fast forward in the evening to about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I think it was. Again, it gets a little hairy for me. I remember we were at a Pitocin 12 and they bumped me up to a 14. And she's like, we really need these contractions to get regular. We need them to get stronger. We need them to get consistent, so we can progress with this labor, because we weren't really sure if my water had broken on Sunday morning when I started to notice the discharge, or Monday. I think it was Monday because that's when it was really a lot more consistent, but we weren't sure. So they kept monitoring me, kept monitoring baby. Luckily, everything was fine. They said there was other medications we could try before like jumping to the conclusion of going to have a C-section, because I did have a little bit of a breakdown when I found out that I would have to be induced. So backtrack to like triage, I started to have a little bit of a breakdown because I felt like my body had failed me a little bit. Yes, I was like leaking fluid, and for the safety of the baby, we needed to get her, like get my body going so we could get her out. But I really wanted to go into labor naturally. I wanted, I don't know, it was a very similar story as to Sophia's birth, Whereas Anthony, my first birth, I full on had contractions at home and pre-labored at home and knew I was in labor. Whereas with Sophia and Amelia, it was kind of like, am I not? I'm not having contractions. What's going on? So I was a little bit upset, but I got over that real quick because I was excited to just have her, and I knew it was just the right thing to do. And I just kept telling myself that this was the best thing for her and for me at this point, was to get induced. So they had a switchover of shifts about 7:30, and I remember the nurse came to check on me about 8. And at this point, I had gotten bumped up to a level 14 right about then. And that's when I started to really feel some contractions. Like, I could breathe through them, but I definitely had to concentrate a little bit more when I was having them. I remember feeling like I needed to use the restroom, so I got up and went and did that because, reminder, at this point I didn't have an epidural, and that was what I wanted. I didn't want to go totally epidural-less, is that a term? But I wanted to be able to walk around the room, maybe get in the tub. Oh, I didn't mention, the room I was in was actually a birthing center room within the hospital. So there was a tub and a beautiful shower, and I was like, man, maybe this is the point that I want to start to get into water to, you know, get some comfort before we get the epidural. And the nurse was like, yeah, no problem. Let me go get the attachments and different things that we need to do to you to be able to get wet. So she goes off and does that. So this is, I'm at level 14 Pitocin, and that is when I was kind of like, wow, these are really starting to get intense, like more intense as the time went on. And by the time she got back and bumped me up to a 16 and got me ready to get in the water, I was like, I don't know that I can move. Because I had tried getting up and like bouncing on the ball a little bit more at this point, and they just were all starting to get all consuming. And I was like, I can't get in the water. Like, I need the epidural. I'm so sorry that you went and did all that. I felt so bad. But I was like, you know what? I think this is the point where I need to like throw in the towel. So she checks my cervix. This is only the second time I had my cervix checked. I don't know if I mentioned that already. Sorry, mom brain. When I got to the hospital, I was only 2.5 centimeters dilated. And when she checked me right before, like right when calling the doctor for the epidural, I was only 4.5 centimeters. So I was like, man, it is like 8:30, 8:45, and I had only dilated 2 centimeters that whole time. So I was like, you know what, screw it. Definitely call the doctor. I'm getting the epidural. She hooked me up to some sort of fluid that I needed to get before he came in. Said it would be about 20 to 30 minutes before he was able to come in and do the procedure, like give me the epidural. And I remember looking at the clock and being like, damn, 20 minutes feels like forever. I can do this. And I remember like trying to count and see what time I just needed to make it to. Kind of like when you're working out and you're like, ooh, couple more reps. Let's do this. Push through it. You got this. I can kind of giggle about it now, but I was totally like starting to get a little bit panicked, but Logan would remind me of my breath. I was really focusing on these low moaning groans. I watched a video, I'll link it down below, and that helped me so much to breathe through my laboring. I really don't know if I would have been able to have been so composed as I was to that point if I had not watched that video and really been practicing on ooh, and like really like driving that down my body and like out my vagina. Essentially, that's the visualization that you kind of pull it through. Helps so much. So I'm waiting for the epidural to get there. I end up asking Logan to go get a snack so he could step out when I'm getting the procedure done. He goes to do the epidural. Mind you, I've had 2 epidurals prior to this, my other 2 births, and no issues. He's going through the whole thing. I'm starting to get anxious, and I'm having like contractions really close together. So I'm like, can you please just do it? Because he kept talking, and he was probably trying to be so nice, and I was trying to be nice, but I was like, hey, like I get anxiety about needles, and you're talking about very specific things, and I know you have to give me the gist of like what you're doing, like legally, like liability wise, but don't tell me like the specifics, please. And he kept talking, and I was just like, I looked at the nurse and I was like, oh my God, I'm literally gonna faint on you. She's like, it's okay. It was so wonderful. She just like held me, like, you know, because you have to lean over, and he numbs my back. No big deal. I expected the pinch. But as he went to do the epidural, not only did I feel the sharpness where he was inserting it, but up at the like top-ish, like mid-back, I could feel an extremely sharp stabbing pain. And I don't remember that happening the last 2 times. And I remember saying to him, like, hey, something doesn't feel right. And he's like, it's fine, don't move, just keep breathing. Like, and I was starting getting a little irritable because I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. I'm in so much pain with these contractions, and being bent over forward does not feel good when you're having a real contraction, okay? Oh, you all done? Go ahead and stop my app. I've been tracking her diapers and how long and what side I'm nursing her on. It's really, really, really helpful. I think it's called the Glow Baby app. I will try to remember to put it down below in case you want to use something like that. Let's see if I can remember. Want to see my baby? Oh, my little smushy. Here we go. Oh, she's so tiny. Okay, so epidural. I get the epidural, and honestly, I was kind of pissed off at that doctor, and he wasn't very he wasn't the warmest of people. He was just very cut dry, very dry, okay? Anyways, so the nurse gives me the peanut ball, because you start to feel it a little bit, like coming in, like the epidural coming in, and I could only feel the loss of sensation on my left side. So they gave me a peanut ball and had me rotate onto my right side to help. They said it would disperse it out or, you know, blend it out. And I was like, okay, no big deal. I trusted in that, right? So they had me on my right side. I'm having contractions. I'm still feeling them full-fledged on all areas. The only place that was starting to get numb was my left thigh, my upper left thigh. And I was like, what the heck? It was maybe like 15, 20 minutes after getting the epidural, because that's when they say it's most efficacious. Like it's, you know, kicked in at that point, which it was not kicked in at that point, let me tell you. I kept pressing that damn button to get more medicine, and it was not helping. They had talked about maybe bringing the doctor back in to see if he could adjust it, but they said sometimes that makes it worse. And honestly, I was like, you need to take this catheter out. Oh, because they put a urine catheter in. Felt 100% of that. It wasn't just the normal pinch and pressure like I remember feeling. It was excruciating pain. So that was fun. And she ended up just ripping that out maybe like 10 minutes after she put it in and was like, you know what, let's just do this. You're pretty much having a natural birth. And I was like, okay, that wasn't the plan, but let's do this. And after she did that and got me back and situated on my right side again to maybe help still dissipate it a little bit more, I was like, I hate to say this, but I kind of need to use the restroom. Like, I feel like I need to poop. I was like, can I still get up? Like, I know my left leg is kind of numb, but like isn't. And my right leg's good to go. Like, can I use the restroom? And she's like, before I do anything with you getting out of this bed, I need to check your cervix then. She checks me and I was an 8. So I went from a 4.5 right before the epidural to an 8 immediately after getting the epidural, quote unquote. And what was that? Maybe a half hour, 45-minute span with very minimal numbing. I went from the 4.5 to the 8. And I was like, oh. And it did definitely hit us that we're having a baby today. Like, not tomorrow because of how slow things were progressing. Like, things sped up and got real quick. So as she was checking me, she's like, well, why don't we do a practice push? So she had me take a deep breath in and do like a little push. And as soon as I started to like push and, you know, like bear down, she's like, stop, no, stop. And I was like, it kind of freaked me out. She's like, we need to call the doctor and get him in here immediately. You need to not push, resist the urge. Because I was like, seriously, I feel like poop is like I'm having an issue. And she was like, that's the baby's head. She's trying to come down the birth canal. But you need to dilate it a smidge more. I'm going to go get your doctor. He comes in, I don't even know how long that was because at this point the contractions were pretty all-consuming. And when I was having them, I had my eyes closed. I was in a zone. All I kept thinking to myself was, my body knows what it's doing. Trust my body. And all you have to do is breathe. All you have to do is breathe and let your body do it. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get emotional. Because I just kept reminding myself, like, you can do this. Like, this is really hard, but you need to trust that your body knows what it's doing. So doctor comes in, he gets his little booties on. He's seriously the sweetest, and luckily he was my doctor that I had been seeing throughout the whole pregnancy. And he goes to be like, okay, let's see where the baby is, and he goes to like check my cervix, and this might be a little graphic, but when I tell you, he went like boop, like maybe an inch in, and goes, there's the baby's head, let's do this. And I was like, she's literally almost out. They got my legs up. Logan's like looking around like, what the heck? And I'm just beside myself, in the zone, having very serious contractions that I'm fully feeling, pretty much, very much so on the right side, and I could feel quite a bit on the left, but it was definitely softened by the epidural. I am grateful I did have some sort of relief somewhere. And I just started getting in the zone. They laid me back. I didn't really want to birth on my back, but because I had kind of had the epidural, I couldn't get up, and they wouldn't let me get up and move into a better position. It's fine. So they got my legs up, I'm bearing down, I do about 3 pushes, and I'm breathing through the push. Kind of like you would in like a workout, like, whoo, like exhaling through the work. And the nurse like grabs me, and she like pushes Logan out of the way, and she goes, we need to get the baby out now. I need you to not breathe through the next push, and I need you to hold your breath, and I need you to bear down the hardest you can. And it sort of freaked me out, and I was like, oh shit, okay, like we need to make this happen, like right now. Stop fucking around, let's do this. And I bared down as hard as I possibly could, holding my breath. And I thought, I watched all these videos saying that you're supposed to breathe through this stuff, but I did what they told me to do. And I could feel her head, and the ring of fire was not as bad as I thought it would be. You know what was the worst part of the whole thing, where I ended up just screaming, like letting go and like, ah, like screaming, was her shoulders. I could feel that her head was at, like, you had a little bit of relief, and then he went to help like rotate. It felt like there was a rotation. I wasn't looking, my eyes were closed. I was not looking, I was in the zone. Her shoulders. And I just remember thinking, like, this is where I'm gonna die. Oh my God, like breathe, 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 breathe. This hurts so much. And he pulled her out, got her up on my chest, and it was done. The pain was over. Oh, I know, I got to feel you right up just like you are right now. And I remember saying, she's so tiny. And they handed her to me, and she was, I know, you were so tiny. And I was like, oh my God, she has ears. That was the first thing I said. How stupid. But I mean, it's the first thing I could see when you're sitting like this. And she cried almost instantly, but then stopped. And I remember the nurse like grabbing her and turning her, doing something, and then she like wailed again. And I was like, oh, that was such a relief. They delivered the placenta. I didn't tear. I didn't need any stitches or anything. Sorry. And it was just wonderful. It was so weird that it was so incredibly painful, and yet I still felt so in control. The only time I lost myself was when they got to the when we got to the shoulders. And I remember looking up at Logan and be like, we have a baby. She's real. She's here. And even now, sometimes we just look at each other like, what? She's ours? Like, we're not just babysitting. Like, this is our little baby. I didn't know that I'd ever have this chance again after having Anthony and Sophia, after all my cancer treatments and going through my divorce, you know, through my first marriage, and not knowing if I would ever find somebody, not that I was even looking, and then to, you know, stumble across the relationship with Logan, and to see that blossom. We were together for 5 years before even getting married, and even talking about, you know, having kids, actively having kids. You know, we talked about having kids, of course, early on, but getting serious about it, you know, we waited our time and made sure everything was right, and all of it had come to fruition in that moment, and it was just, oh my God. It was wonderful. so emotional. Are you laughing? I just went to turn the camera off to switch it over because my battery's about to die. Real quick. So they delivered my placenta. I think that's when they clamped and had Logan cut the cord because I wanted to delay cord clamping and cutting. So she was connected to me for quite a while. Oh, at least it felt that way to me after she was on my chest and already birthed and all that. So Logan got to cut the cord, and when I asked him later on, I was like, was this like a very traumatizing experience for you? Like, I know it's probably hard to see me in pain and all the blood and everything. And he's like, no, honestly, like, it was hard to see you in pain, but he didn't get queasy on anything. I think because you just are so in the moment, like, the baby is here, the baby is coming. So I'm very happy that he got to have such a positive experience. And while things did not go 100% my way, I definitely feel like this was a positive birth experience for me. I felt like I had control much of the time of myself mentally, and that is such a relief. I'm very, very proud of myself for that. I've struggled with anxiety and depression and, you know, low self-worth and not trusting in myself. So to make it through this and be like, damn, I fucking did it. It's very, very reassuring. It's definitely a confidence booster for sure. So what else happened? I'm trying to think. They monitored us. I put her on my chest or to nurse, like, pretty much like right away. I would say maybe within 15 minutes of being birthed, and she nursed for like 45 minutes on my right breast, and that was a mistake. I should have potentially stopped her maybe like 20 minutes in, but I was so happy and proud of how she had just naturally latched on. It gave me a blister on that side, so I don't recommend doing that. I was just in the moment. I was like, wow, she's nursing so good, and I should have maybe resonated it just a smidgens, so I wouldn't have gotten that blister because it was really painful for the next few days. But we went through it and everything's great, and she's a wonderful sleeper. She's on her own schedule, which is about every 2 to 2.5 hours during the day and every 3 hours at night. She wakes up, she has a diaper change, she nurses on whatever side is that's turn, and we hang out a little bit, especially during the day. She'll be awake and she'll be looking around. I'm surprised she's so asleep right now. She was awake much in the morning though. So that's probably why. Not every moment is rainbows and butterflies. They're like, last night she woke up an extra time for feeding. Like, she woke up every 2 hours rather than like every 3.5. So I only got like maybe 4.5 hours of sleep. Not complaining. I expected this. Actually, it's been a lot better of a process and a lot smoother of a postpartum process than I ever expected. I am still bleeding a little bit, still spotting. I do have to keep a panty liner in. That first week postpartum was a little bit rough for me, not necessarily mentally, but like physically. Those aftershocks, as I'll call them, like the contractions that you have when you nurse, because your uterus is trying to like go back to shape. Some of those felt just as bad as the transition surges that I was having. Off the charts painful. I remember I was trying to walk to the restroom and I had one of the aftershock surges, and I bent over in pain and almost fell on the floor. Logan had to like come over and like hold me up because it just hit me from 0 to 1,000. And they last a lot longer than contractions do, because at least when you have a contraction you can kind of like take 3 deep breaths and it passes. But the like aftershock ones, they last for like a minute, it feels like. So I don't know what the deal is with that. They do say that they get stronger after each baby because your body's trying to get back to normal as much as possible. But I'd say that was maybe the worst part of the immediate postpartum. Not necessarily the sleep deprivation, but the contraction, the surge pains, the night sweats. Holy crap. I still sporadically get them, but not nearly as bad as that first week. I didn't expect this. I didn't know this was a thing. I did not have this with my first 2. I would wake up in the night, either for her or like spontaneously on my own, and I was drenched. And I don't mean like, oh, like you're a little misty, like you got a little sweaty. I mean like my full back, my full legs, whether I was wearing pants or I was naked or bare skinned or whatever, the bed would be absolutely soaked as if I took a water bottle and sprayed it out. So then I had to start sleeping on a towel and a diaper and in my nursing bra. So I'm like laying there sexy as can be on my towel and my diaper. My boobs are leaking and I'm exhausted and probably like laying there like, like, oh, poor Logan. But I had to do that because I was sweating so bad. And then I would get freezing because the fan and the AC would kick on because it's warm here in Arizona. And I would be wet, cold, shivering, getting goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have to get up and rinse my body real quick, get, redressed with what the minimal stuff that I was wearing, and attempt to fall back asleep before Munchkin woke up again. So that was annoying. That was unexpected. I would say the aftershock surges and then the night sweats were like the worst part of the postpartum. Definitely those two things. Everything else, I haven't lost any hair just yet. We're early on for that. Skin, I've got a couple little tiny blemishes here or there, probably just from sleep deprivation and not like doing my cleansing for as long as I like to do. I've still been doing my full skincare. Even the night that I had her, it was 3 a.m. and I remember asking the nurse, I was like, I need to get up and use the restroom. 1, 2, please help me get up to the bathroom because I need to wash my face. Like, priorities here. I need to cleanse and moisturize and get my eye cream on. And she just kind of giggled. I was like, it's a thing for me. Sorry, that's my thing. I brushed my teeth and got all comfortable because a lot of, feeling like you is doing a little bit of your normal routine as much as possible. Hey, smushy smush. So I tried to maintain that as much as I could, or as much as I have been the past 3 weeks, because that is definitely something that's important to me. Now, wearing makeup every day, not happening. I will be honest and tell you that. I have not been wearing makeup every single day. Especially in the hospital. I don't even think I put makeup on until we went to leave. And the only reason I did that is because I wanted to take a picture of us by the car. I had this wonderful dream and a whole Pinterest board filled of cute at hospital pictures to be taken. But man, she did not sleep the first night out. Like I said, I was up at 3 a.m. after giving birth to her. I think I fell asleep, got up at 5 to nurse her again. And then from that point, the pediatrician came in. They took blood from me, blood from her. They waited, like they did all, like there was somebody coming in every 15 minutes from that point on. So I did not get very much rest that Tuesday, that next day after giving birth to her. I will say, we tried to take a nap in the afternoon. That's when I kind of hoped, I was like, man, can I take a shower? But they wouldn't let me shower if I had the IV in. So finally they took that out and I was able to take a shower Tuesday evening to refresh myself. But by then it was like dark and not conducive to taking cute hospital pictures. So we raced around Wednesday morning before we got released and took a couple cute pictures of her in her little bassinet. But again, I don't think I'm in any of the pictures and I'm kind of bummed because you see all those ones on Instagram and Pinterest of all these cute girls all made up and like looking pulled together, and there I was like like a side bun falling off and snoring and drooling and it was not cute. So they didn't release us Tuesday night. I thought they would, but they actually have to keep you 24 hours, a whole 24 hours after giving birth to check her for her newborn screening. So since she was born at, did I even tell you the time? At 10:21 p.m. We had to stay until 10:21 p.m. on Tuesday at the very least until her test results came back, which came back about midnight, and we weren't going to leave the hospital and get released at midnight. That just wasn't happening. So her bilirubin numbers were a little bit high, so they brought in a bed and she had to sleep naked in her little diaper and not swaddled and not on me. Essentially the first real night of being earthside here. And that was a little bit hard for me. I had gone through that with Sophia. Well, not the first time we were in the hospital. We got released normal, and then her pediatrician readmitted us into the hospital, and she had to go in the lamp at like day 4, day 5 of life. But luckily they released us Wednesday morning when they realized her numbers had gotten better overnight, just being under the lamp that short bit. I think it was like 8 hours. So that was such a relief. So we get home and his parents were there, or they came like shortly after we got home. And then we picked up the kids from school on Thursday. It was so nice to have his parents close by to help us out. And it was so nice to see Anthony and Sophia so warm when they met her. Man, it's been a really, really amazing postpartum experience, and even birth experience. So, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop crying now. I've cried like half of filming this. I'm so sorry. I'm probably gonna go to try to make myself some lunch here. And thank you so much for being here and listening to our birth story. I'm sorry if it's a little bit on the longer side, or if I forget anything because my mind is all jumbled. I did write all of this down that night that I couldn't sleep, Tuesday into Wednesday. I typed up the whole birth story so that I wouldn't miss anything or forget anything. So I'll see if I can maybe put a blog post together that you could like read through, or I don't know if anybody's even interested. Maybe I'll just keep it for myself. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all the sweet, kind comments and Instagram messages and everyone checking in on us. How are we doing? Let me see the baby. It's very, very, very heartwarming, and I really appreciate the love and support that this community has extended out to us. I hope to do more videos with baby stuff and makeup and skincare. Not all of it's going to be baby, I promise. I'm definitely going to try to keep it a nice mix of things on my channel moving forward. So if you have any requests, definitely leave those in the comments down below. Otherwise, I will see you in a video very shortly. Bye.